So hello everybody, welcome to Real Edutainment. Today I'm here to talk about the topic for history. So basically for now we're just talking about the important topics for your first assessment and myself, Miss Hina. So today we'll only come across the important topics which are must for every student to be known. So basically in history what we do, everybody says history is just a rectifying subject. No, it is not. History is way more than rectifying. What do we actually look up for history, or how do we memorize history? I assume majority of you all find it difficult to understand the concept or to understand it's difficult to remember the dates and the timeline. So first, when we start, I'll just go through the paper pattern. Then how can you score 16 on 16 or out of for all the particular paper pattern that we are talking about here. Okay, so in all the sections, how is it possible for you all to come up and score full marks? And what does the moderator actually look up for in ICSE? So we begin today. Welcome everybody once again. So my very first we talk about is the paper pattern here. Okay, as you all can see, the very first we talk about is part 1, where it consists of 30 marks, which is a compulsory set. Here, these 30 marks, there is no optional question as such. So question number 1 is your MCQs, which are for 16 marks. Question number 2 is short answers, which is for 14 marks. So here 2 mark each question. So here you have 7 questions. You do not find any options into the above given questions, which are for your 30 marks. These are your compulsory set of questions here. Part 2, we talk about 50 marks, which is section B, which is consisting of history for 30 marks here. Okay, so out of this, for the first one, solve 3 out of 5 structured questions. It is 10 mark each. Sub questions we strictly follow. If it is a sub question for each question, then the sub questions will have A, B and C. Alright, so normally your question A is 3 marks, question B is 3 marks and C is 4 marks. As we all know, now board looks up more for competency-based questions. So which kind of questions can we expect, and what are the basis on which, or what are the concepts on which majority of the questions could be asked? So we move further now. So when you talk about how to score full, your golden rule here is answers evaluated on exact keywords. Yes, you will only talk about the keywords, the formal tone and the precise words which are used into your textbooks. I know it is not possible every time to remember everything, but certain keywords are must. Alright, so why am I talking about this? See, when we talk about history, it is but natural. How do you remember history? You remember history into a story form. Hence, your paper shouldn't come up into a history paper which reflects more of English language, where you're writing stories of each dynasties or each particular movement here. So what is important? The name of the moment. So the precise name there. Who are the people, the leader, and which area did the movement affect? Alright, so this is how, these are the keywords which one has to remember. Alright, we move further here. So first let us figure out how do you score 16 on 16 in an MCQ. First, spot trigger negatives. That means underline each word like not, expect, incorrect immediately. If your question consists any of these, remember what the exact output of that question is, or what is the demand of that question here. Alright, for assertion and reason, what is the strategy here? First, you only look up to what A stands for. Is the statement A completely correct? And then later on you move to R. And then you evaluate whether R is correct. So if both are true, add because between them to check the logical link. Then elimination technique, which we have been heard about, and which we all may be following for a very long time. So group options by timeline or ideology. That means, for example, moderate versus assertives, and then look up to the timeline, scratch wrong dates first. What you feel or what you're sure about, no, this cannot be the answer by any means. First, you strike that off or eliminate off beforehand. Next, direct keyword matching. That is, look up for specific technical terms which match to the syllabus. For example, drain theory. Who came up with this? Dadabhai Navroji. Next, we move is to the next slide. All right. So the next we first talk about is the very first chapter of your textbook, which is your First War of Independence. All right. As per the topic, what is important here? Where do you pay more amount of attention? Okay. So we quickly come up through the summary. First, important, where there are short questions which are asked out of these. First is the political cause. What were the political causes that we looked up for? All right. So we all come across doctrine of lapse, subsidiary alliances. Then we talk about the misgovernance, the disrespect of Bahadur Shah Zafar and Nana Sahib. From the political clauses, these are the most important keywords to be put up to. When I say keywords, that doesn't mean you will not elaborate on it. Okay. So when I talk about doctrine of lapse, I can talk about who implemented it, all right, and which were the states which were annexed under the doctrine of lapse. For example, I can talk about Jhansi there. I would rather mention Jhansi there. Only mentioning Jhansi is not sufficed. All right. So if it is 3-mark question, as per the demand of the question, you will mention the 3 keywords there. So not necessary that I might write paragraphs. Oh, the biggest mistake which normally everybody does. See, understand one thing. This is not your literature paper at all. This is your history paper. So hence, whenever you answer, your answers has to be precise. It cannot be addition of unwanted stories to the answer sheet there. Underline and highlight the key words. When you come up with a new point, always see to it that it should have a header followed by the key points. All right. So we move ahead. For social religious causes, there may be questions which may be only precise to social religious causes. It could be here abolition of sati, widow remarriage. Then it also fears the conversation and the Western education. So conversion here talks about how the society was impacted by the missionary activities here. All right, that means what was the influence of these missionaries into the society, how people were ready to accept a new religion, give up their own religion here, and on what grounds did people opt for it. All right, so you'll have to talk about it, you'll have to elaborate your economic cause. So what is major cause of this economic cause? See, we all know Britishers came to India only as an East India trading company. From a trading company, how all of a sudden they started coming up with political expansion. All right. So when we talk about your economic cause, how could we forget the beginning of it starts from your Diwani right, which was for the purpose of taxations. All right. So then how slowly, gradually they started implementing their own rules, and they came up with almost, almost a kind of monopoly into trade. All right, so here majority we talk about is the handicrafts, how the indigenous handicrafts were affected with the industrialization. All right, because the industrial goods were very cheap, and India was almost into the crisis, economical crisis at that point of time. So people, rather than opting for handmade goods, obviously we'll opt for something which is lighter to our pocket, and that is what we did. So we opted for industrial goods. Then the tax exploitation of the peasantry. Also, we include term that as drain of wealth. For military clauses, we all know when we talk about specifically to the first war of independence, here the major cause was that the Indian military was not given the high positions as compared to the Britishers. The highest position given to us was Subedars. All right. So here the racial discrimination was one of them, but also keeping in mind how it hurted the sentiments of the people later on. This gave a break to the revolt of 1857. See, we all know everybody was unhappy with Britishers in the society. But did we have a leader as such? No, we didn't. So every territory was fighting for their own selfish means here. All right, so there was no unity as such. Fine. So we talk about the military clauses, where we first talk about the General Service Establishment Act. Then we talk about how the pay was divided based on the racism, all right, and the ill treatment given to the Indian sepoys. The immediate cause for you all into your upgraded syllabus. For this year, you only have for the immediate cause is how did it affect or how did it came up to be a cause of the revolt of 1857, where Mangal Pandey started with a kind of small military revolt, a mutiny, but later, slowly, gradually, the fire spread to different parts of the country. All right. So anyway, South was not much affected at this point of time. So the immediate cause here, so for you all, it is only limited to the introduction of the new Enfield rifles. And we all know there was a rumor that which said that they were greased with the cow and the pig fat. So which hurt the sentiments of the Indian soldiers here. Holy, for example, cow being holy to Hindus and pig being taboo to Muslims. So this brought the unity between Hindus and Muslims at this point of time. And the consequence, what happened out of the entire revolt, the first war of independence, was that a new rule was established in India. Now, we do not have the East India Company as whole and soul to look after the India. So who comes up here into the picture? Here, the crown takes the rule here. All right, the Queen's proclamation takes place. So now you have the Queen who is looking after the administration of India here. Okay, now when we talk about what type of questions can we generally expect here? For example, see, the boards always come up with 4 categories of questions, where you first have recall, then you have understanding, then you have analysis, and your global impact. So when we talk about recall, you generally have questions like this. Who introduced the doctrine of lapse? Where you're trying to recall. All right. Understanding is how can you come up and reflect the conceptual knowledge that you have here. So why did, generally for understanding, the term used is why did the General Service Enlistment Act create resentment? So you talk about understanding here. Analysis, how did, okay, see the variations in the question. How did our annexation directly trigger the military revolt? So how do you analyze this? How can you come up with conceptual knowledge here? Global impact, where I put you in a hypothetical situation, that could be one of it. So here we talk about how did 1857 alter the governance model of the empire. So this is how we're trying to come up with your, not kind of personal question, but overall your view on the entire scenario here. All right, I hope this is clear to you all. We now move to the second. All right, so now we start to the next topic, which is your growth of nationalism. Now, similarly here, when I talk about growth of nationalism, all right, we all know what does nationalism stand for. When you talk about India being one, we are not talking about any community here. We're not talking about different states. What are we looking up for? India as one nation. How do you come up with such kind of feelings? How do you lead the crowd towards the ideology of nationalism? All right, so we move ahead with this. So your chapter summary here, first we talk about what enlightened the nationalism here. So economic exploitation, where we all know the deindustrialization. So India first as raw material exporter and finished the goods which were importer. All right. So what adds on to this here is also your Lytton policies. Okay. So we talk about the repressive policies of Lord Lytton. One of the most important questions. Mind it, I forgot to tell you something. Your chapter number 1 is the most high weightage chapter even into your boards. All right, moving further. So social reformers, we talk about this. So when we talk about Brahmo Samaj, we talk about Satyashodak Samaj, we talk about the reformers. What do you mean by the term reformers? Few people into the society who want to reform the society. That means they're trying to come up with a new society completely, giving away all those orthodox ideologies, leaving back all the orthodox the thoughts. All right. Next, what is important here is how the role of press. Why was press so important for an entire nationalism? As we all know, there was no other source of awareness. There was no other source of reaching out to the people. Like, for example, now we all have YouTube, you all have Insta, you all have Facebook. We all use social media, but at that point of time, people did not have access to social medias. All right. So what did we depend on? We depended on the newspapers, which acted as the only source of spreading awareness to the people. So how vernacular newspapers exposed the British exploitation. All right. Then we talk about the foundation of Indian National Congress, one of the other important topics where you talk about A.O. Hume. Then you talk about the first session at Bombay. All right. And then the first 2 presidents. As per your syllabus, there are only first 2 presidents that you talk about. Where we talk about Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee, and second one is the first session. Here you have 1885 and Dadabhai Navroji into the second session in 1886. What type of questions can we expect here? Again, the flow of the question remains the same. You have recall, understanding, analysis, and global impact. Recall again starts with who. Your understanding starts with why. Your analysis, when you come up with additional, your analysis on that particular topic there. All right. And global impact, how would you react if you were put into that situation there? All right. So who presided over the first 2 sessions of INC? You talk about Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee and Dadabhai Navroji. I have added both, but it could also be mention any one. All right. See, normally for 2 marks, you will always have 2 keywords. All right. So here you have 2 of them. Understanding why was the Vernacular Press Act considered oppressive? So you talk about it. Why so? Because it imposed strict censorship exclusively on the local Indian language newspapers while exempting the English papers here. So what do you highlight here? All right, what are the formal key terms? So you talk about the censorship, which is my first keyword. Second is the English papers here, where I talk about the local Indian language. All right. Next, analysis, where you talk about Jyotiba Phule's role in promoting national resurgence. All right. So how did she play an important role? First, coming up with Satyashodak Samaj. Secondly, you can also talk about her establishment, about coming up with a girls' school. All right. Why? Because those days, due to gender inequality and majority of the society being a patriarchal society, females were considered to be the second sex into the society, and hence they were the last ones to be sent to the school, because we always have the thought and the mindset that once a girl is married, she's not a part of our family. She's going to carry it to another family here. All right. So we talk about this. This is how you analyze. Next, how did socio-religious reform lay democratic foundation? So you can talk about how a topic of social religion can come up with democratic foundations. All right. So because the society lacked gender equality, okay, it lacked the thoughts of liberty, and it lacked the equality here. So based on the above society, we then conclude that individual liberty, gender rights and equality were essential for the modern democracy here. All right. So we now move ahead to the next chapter, which is the first phase of Indian national movement. Okay. Your chapter 3, let's talk about the important topics here. Just like what we discussed previously, we'll talk about the ideology and the beliefs that we all were looking up for. See, when we talk about the INC formation here we're talking specifically about the moderates. Assertives are not a separate group as of now. All right. So we are all talking about the moderates who believed into the British sense of justice and gradual constitutional reforms. All right. So somehow we wanted to enter the administration at this point of time. So methods of struggle, which is a normally asked question, where you talk about petitions, prayers, and protest. Then we talk about the role of Dadabhai Navroji. Then you talk about Surendranath Banerjee, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. So for this particular chapter, there are 3 personalities which are to be known, where you need to know the background and the work of Dadabhai Navroji. Similarly with Surendranath Banerjee and with Gopal Krishna Gokhale. So what was the key achievement of this overall? That because of this, it was possible to come up with expansion of legislative councils. That is via Indian Council Act 1892. So here somewhere down the line, we were able to establish ourselves politically by this point of time, which created political awareness. Now again here, the questions which can come up is in the same form, where you talk about recall, understanding, analysis, and global impact. So first, recall, state 2 contributions of Dadabhai Navroji. So state 2, 1 mark for drain theory, 2nd mark for served as INC president 3 times. If you mention any one, then you get only 1 mark for it. All right. Understanding can also have explain. All right. Explain the constitutional methods of the early nationalist. Okay. Now, I haven't added here any source-based question. All right. Or picture-based question. But for your recall, you might have questions which are source-based, or you might also have picture-based questions here. So now we move further. So the global impact, how did the drain theory alter international perception of the British rule. Okay, this is how we go about. Now we move to the next, where you talk about chapter number 4, second phase of Indian national movement. All right. Now we talk about this, the most important topic, or something which is for sure to come, is your Bengal partition. All right. So partition of Bengal is the limelight of this particular chapter here. Then you also talk about assertive nationalism. For y'all, you only have the objective of it. All right, we will not go much in details with the assertive nationalist here. Then you will talk about the methods of resistance, but you'll talk how did we come up with Swadeshi, boycott, national education. Okay, so we talk about all of these. Surat split is also one of the important topics here. So breakdown between the moderates and the assertives. What was the reason for it? Because both their ideologies did not match at this point of time. The moderate wanted the boycott to be happening only within the Bengal, whereas assertives demanded it on a nationwide scale for a very mass participation of the people, which could impact the British society here. So because of these clashes, both of them had a kind of division here, where moderates did not agree to the thoughts of assertives, and assertives did not match up to the expectations of the moderates here. Okay, so Surat split is the time where both of these split. So Bal Gangadhar Tilak, his contributions are to be known here. Next, Lala Lajpat Rai. So his contributions. So for this chapter, what you need to know is Bengal, partition of Bengal. Then you talk about Surat split. Then the role of Bal Gangadhar Tilak and the role of Lala Lajpat Rai. Similarly, when you talk about these, again you'll have questions which will be based on the same criteria, that is recall, understanding, analysis, and global impact. I'll just give you a small one. See, understanding, differentiate between objectives of moderates and assertives. This is an easier one. Name two newspapers. This is recall, where you remember and you write. Analysis, how do you take Swadeshi and boycott moment? Then what is the global impact? This question is something where you really need to give your 100%, or you cannot ratify something here and just go and write down in the paper. So you talk about global impact of Swadeshi movement. How could Swadeshi movement, which was supposed to be held or which was within India, how would it affect globally here? All right. So what was the global impact here? So this shifted anti-colonial struggle from the elite petitions to mass economic boycotts. Now we will not look up only for the 3 P's method. All right. Okay, moving further to the next chapter. I hope this actually helps you all to revise before your examination. The chapter number 5 is what we are heading to, and now another 2 chapters to go, and then we talk a little about civics, because civics does not have more chapters to be spoken about. So we talk about the Muslim League. All right. So as we all know, okay. So when we talk about the Muslim League, what is important here? First, the formation of it. All right. The founded in 1906, and Dhaka came under Nawab Salimullah. So we talk about it. Then the factors which led. Then what was the primary objective of it? All right. See, this was a time where British wanted the Muslims to have the feeling that, okay, Britishers are the ones who are going to give them protection, or they are the ones who are going to protect their civil rights, their political rights. All right. So this is how they started to come up and promote loyalty to British at this point of time, to the crown. When I talk about here, we all know that after the revolt of 1857, it is not the East India Company that we're talking about as Britishers here, but we're talking about the queen here, all right, the crown here. Then we talk about the parliamentary reforms, then the Lucknow Pact, and then impact of the pact. Now the Lucknow Pact, see, सूरत split में दोनों अलग हो गया. Okay, they have split. Lucknow Pact, we see how both these come together. All right, the assertives and the moderates become one here at this point of time. So you have a joint session of INC and Muslim League, which was arranged by Tilak and Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Okay, so what was the impact of it? As I already spoke, this reunited the moderates and the assertives. All right. Now, what kind of questions? Again, it is the same: recall, understanding, analysis, and global impact. So, when we talk about recall, for example, when is for one mark, or where is for 1 mark. So, where and when was the Muslim League established? So, my 1 mark is for the term 1906, and another 1 mark is for Dhaka or Dhaka year. All right. Mention two primary objectives of Muslim League. So we talk about this. Your analysis is, why is the Lucknow Pact considered a major milestone? This is your analysis. What have you understood out of it? As per your knowledge or your conceptual gain, how can you turn this particular moment to be a moment here, a milestone here? So global impact, when we talk about long-term consequence of accepting separate electorates in 1916. If we could have accepted something like that, okay, how every community in India would ask for separate electorate? You could talk about it. All right. So you're connecting topic of history globally here. We next start is with the chapter number 6. Oh, now this chapter is something which you have been listening about or must be aware of. So avoid giving up on any of these questions here. At least attempt. I'm sure that we all know at least our Indian history here. All right. So from this chapter, what is important? My God, here you have too many things which are important. First, your non-cooperation. Okay, when you talk about the Rowlatt Act, you talk about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre and the Khilafat issue. Then you talk about the NCM program and exit. All right, where you talk about the Chauri Chaura incident here. All right. Then it could be, how did you come up, or how did Gandhi think of coming up with the civil disobedience movement here? All right, so we'll talk about the rejection of Simon Commission. Simon Commission itself could be a topic here in the form of question. All right, then Purva Swaraj Declaration at Lahore session. Oh, the most important one here is Dandi March. At least I am sure you all must have come across a picture of Mahatma Gandhi walking with the Dandi here. All right, so it could be a source-based question, it could be a picture-based question. All right, then Gandhi Iron Pact that we all know about, where Gandhi was bound to go to the second roundtable conference. So we talk about the second roundtable conference in connection to it. As per your syllabus, you do not have the first and the third roundtable conference. You are only to be known to the second roundtable conference. Okay, but only for your information, I feel it is wise enough at least to know the background of the roundtable conference, so that it makes easy for you to understand what second roundtable conference was. All right. Then we talk about the renewal of the moment, where you talk about failure of the roundtable congress 1, 2, and 3. All right, which led to the renewal of the civil disobedience movement here. What kind of questions can we talk about? All right. Now, something which you all can, global questions when you talk about, how did Gandhian Satyagraha influence global moments? All right. So this is how you're connecting one particular topic to any of the global topics. Here I can connect it to any other global issue and also come up with question or frame a question that if for certain situation, a hypothetical situation, can we come up with the non-cooperation movement? Can we come up with a kind of civil disobedience movement, and what kind of impact will it have on the society? All right, so this is how your questions can appear here. Then next, we talk about is the last chapter where you talk about Quit India movement. Now this is a very short chapter and hence I suggest you not to leave any of those four options here. All right. Do not leave at least the Gandhian, the non-cooperation civil disobedience movement for option here. Also from the first war of independence. These chapters cannot be your optional chapters here. So for this, you have the Cripps mission failure. All right, you do not have the, what was Cripps mission? You only have the failure of the Cripps mission here. All right. Then how Japan was a threat after World War II. All right, and why India came up with the tag of Quit India. Why did all of a sudden Indians wanted Britishers to leave us? All right, so Quit India resolution came up, passed on August 8, 1942. That is where we came up with the slogan of do or die. Then we talk about government repression here. All right. Now, say, this is what happens when the government try to repress anything, we come up to be triggered. All right. And hence, this will become nationwide later on. Then the significance of this was, this proved British rule could no longer be maintained without consent, made independence inevitable. So this was the time they had to come up with Quit India. So when you talk about timeline to freedom, we talk first about the Cabinet Mission Plan, then you talk about the Mountbatten Plan, and then the Indian Independence Act. What kind of questions can we expect here? We pay more attention towards the analysis and the global, because these two is possible for you all to at least learn and write. But when it comes to analysis, this is your conceptual knowledge. When it comes to your global impact, this is again your conceptual knowledge, which you're trying to put into a hypothetical situation here. So it was spontaneous. For example, how was Quit India distinct from earlier mass movement? Okay, so we come up earlier mass movement. So what are we talking about? We're talking about non-cooperation and civil disobedience movement here. So you are supposed to understand those moments. Those moments are not going to be mentioned here. All right. So this is how you analyze that. Next, global impact of it, where you combine impact of World War II and Quit India on British rule. What was the impact of these two? All right. So World War II economically exhausted the Britain, while Quit India shattered the administrative control. Hence, there was no other option for the Britishers but to come up making India independent immediately. All right. So this is all for your history as per your, all right, as per your chapters. But how do you come up? See, majority what happens in history, understand one thing. This is not a science paper. This is not a mathematical equation where you write anything, but even if you come up with each formula, that means if my answer is wrong, but my formula is correct, I can score 1 mark. No, for history, this doesn't work. Not only for history, but none of your social sciences, this works. You can gain marks only and only with the help of your presentation here. How do you come up with your paper? How do you present it? How do you present it? That doesn't mean I'm talking about decorating your paper here. What am I talking about? I'm talking about giving precise answers. I'm talking about precise years. I'm talking about knowing the precise cause and the effect of it. All right, so history is always learned by cause and effect. All right. So Prepare a timeline for yourself where you keep going through the timeline. The ones who cannot remember the years, don't mug up the years. Look up to the leaders. Who were the leaders at that point of time? So that even if I don't know the year, I know the leader. I know at which point of time was this. All right. So somewhere you'll have to come up with different tricks to learn it. So the timeline anchor points. So prepare a timeline for yourself. Okay. So 57 we talk about as your first war of independence here. All right. Then 85 foundation of Indian National Congress. 1905 something to remember, partition of Bengal. 1906 formation of Muslim League. 1907 Surat split, that is moderates versus assertives. 1916 Lucknow pact. 1920 the non-cooperation movement launch. 29 is Purna Swaraj Declaration at Lahore. 1930 we come up with Dandi March, that is civil disobedience movement. Then 42 we come up with Quit India, where we have do or die slogans. All right. So this is how you prepare your timeline here. All right. So remember these are the most important topics to be known. All right. For example, the Lucknow pact, or you talk about non-cooperation moments. So you need to know that when did this happen? All right, which year? How do you, now we talk about how do you come up with answer presentation? All right, what is expected? First, always write point-wise format. Always answer structured question in numbers. Okay, avoid writing the first question on the last page, last question on the first page. Either you start your paper in an ascending way or in a complete descending way. All right, do not come up with too many pointers at the same time. Be precise to what you're writing. Don't give unnecessary information there. Why? Because you're spending additional time there. All right. So if the demand is only for 3 keywords, that is 3 points to be mentioned, I stick to 3 just because I know all 6. I will not mention all 6. Why? Because I need to come up with time management so that I can complete my other answers as well. All right. So always answer structured questions in points, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you don't want to use 1, 2, 3, 4, you can also use bullets there. All right. Come up with correct question numbers. See to it that every answer is numbered. By the end of the paper, when you finish that, give a quick revision of the paper. Go through the paper. See what is written wrong, or if you can recall something. All right. Or whether you've missed out something. So mark point alignments, that is provide 3 distinct points for 3 mark questions. Okay, and 4 points for 4 mark questions here. Stick to the syllabus which is provided by the council to you all. All right. How do you stick to this? By the causes and the consequences which are specified in syllabus. Do not waste time on the military details. That means adding on more details to it. Time management is a must. Okay, so your complete part 1 MCQs and short answers has to be done within 35 minutes. Spend 20 minutes per long question into the set, which is part 2. So this is all we have for history here. Now we start with civics. All right, as discussed previously when we spoke about history, now we'll switch to civics here. For civics, you have only chapter number 8 and chapter number 9, that is Union Parliament 1 and Parliament 2. So what is more important here? We specifically talk about Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, which is the lower house and the upper house. We talk about the composition, we talk about the legislative rights, we talk about the executive rights. Okay, so we talk about the maximum strength. So here we have 550 members which are directly elected. That means we as people elect them. And here we have Rajya Sabha with the strength of 250 members, out of which 238 are elected and 12 are nominated by the president here. Whereas for Lok Sabha, we do not have any member who's nominated by the president here. Okay. Then the term and the age here, we talk about 5 years is how long the Lok Sabha is functional. If every 5 years it dissolves, okay, and the minimum age you have of candidate here to be a member of Lok Sabha is 25. So when we talk about term and age here, it is a permanent body. Hence, 1/3 retire every 2 years. And the minimum age we have here is 30 years. Who's the presiding officer here? You have the speaker. Here you have the ex-officio chairman. Okay. And then we talk about the direct representation of the popular mandate. Here you have as the minimum 1/10 house strength which is required, which is the quorum here. Majority questions come on this. All right. So we now move to the next. Okay. So we talk about Union Parliament 2 now. Okay, so what do we talk about here? Here, what is important is the financial power. How does it have control over the executive, and what are the parliamentary devices that we have? So when we talk about financial power, we talk about exclusive powers over the public money. All right. So which can only be introduced into the Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha can only delay it by 14 days. All right. So exclusive power over public money, that is money bills, can only be introduced into the Lok Sabha. This is the financial power. When you talk about the control over executive, we talk about the question hour and the 0 hour here. Also, we talk about adjournment motion and the no confidence motion. This is something which you really need to understand. See, for civics, there is nothing where you can write stories. All right, so certain formal terms are required, and hence knowing history is easy, but coming up with civics is a little difficult. Why so? Because you need to come up with the exact number, the exact members, all right, and also the formal terms which are required. All right, so when we talk about parliamentary, what are the parliamentary devices that we have here? For example, we talk about the question hour, we talk about the 0 hour, we talk about no confidence. For example, what is no confidence? If passed, it is not only that one particular individual resigns, it is the cabinet who will resign here. All right, so 0 hour normally starts at 12 p.m. for some urgent matters to be discussed. Question hour is the first hour of sitting here. So for now, from chapter number 2, these are the most important things one needs to know here. All right, except for this composition of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and I'm sure chapter number 8 and 9 you already have a good hold on, because you've already studied about this in your past. All right, this is what I assume. So when we talk about high yield ICSE board questions as such, all right, when we talk about civics, we have compared Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha regarding composition and term. We just did that. Then civics, we talk about the second chapter, we talk about the quorum, the money bill, and the no confidence motion, which we saw in the union part into the previous chapter here. All right. So this, I wish you all the best for your history and civics, and I'm sure you all will come up with flying colors. Just get your concepts right, write the formal terms for civics, see to it that you attempt all the questions, do not leave any. Time management is important, and for your long answers, elaborate your points, but keywords are mandatory. Highlight, underline the keywords so that it is easy for the moderator to come across that yes, the child knows it and the child has mentioned the keyword here. Avoid writing paragraphs, always answer in points. Apart from that, come up with more of writing practice when it comes to history and civics. See to it that you complete your paper on time, and you also have some time to revise. I need to go through it. All right. So that if you've missed out on something, if you've forgotten to write something, you can attempt it at the last moment. So with this, I, Ms. Hina, end my history and civics session for the assessment here. If you like it, please share and subscribe. Also, recommend your friends here. Thank you for joining us.